Hey guys, this is John Watts. Thanks for watching this video. What we'll talk about is how do you know when to settle a lawsuit? Now, I'll tell you specifically types of lawsuits that I do because that's my experience. Is first of all, from when I first started practicing law, I would handle personal injury and wrongful death cases, and I still do. And then second, we do more what's called consumer litigation. So we're suing debt collectors, mortgage companies, credit bureaus, things like that. Really, it doesn't matter, okay? Anytime when you're trying to figure out when to settle a case, there's a relationship between the risk to you as a plaintiff and the reward to you as a plaintiff. And really, it's the same thing for the defendant. See, the defendant has to say, what's my risk in not settling? And if I don't settle, what's the reward I get? So let me give you an example. Let's say that you have a car wreck case and say there's plenty of insurance. Maybe we're suing a trucking company. They've got, 800,000 or more in insurance. Anyway, point is tons of insurance. Okay. And let's say that I look at the case and I say, I think my client, their case is worth about $250,000. Okay. And, while any case could be lost, I say, this is a really strong case. And so the defendant offers $50,000. Now, $50,000 is real money, okay? But everything's relative, all right? So we would look at that and say, well, what's the risk if I turn down that $50,000? Well, my client could lose, okay? So is that a tiny risk? Is that a huge risk? What is that? And then what's the reward if I press forward? Well, maybe if I think it has a settlement value of $250,000, maybe I think I can get $500,000 at trial, or $300,000, or $600,000, whatever it might be. So we always have to look at this, both what is put before us right now, and then also what's potentially out there. So let's say that I come back to the defendant in that case, and I say, we reject your $50,000 offer, pay us $450,000. Well, if the defendant says there is no chance that we would ever get popped with a verdict for over $100,000, well, then they're probably not willing to do that. But if they say, you know what, this thing could try, maybe we could keep the damages to 150, maybe 100,000, but we could also get hit for $1 million. Well, now they've got to start evaluating that. So both sides constantly have to look at the risk and the reward. And there's sort of fancy ways to think about this, and we certainly go over those with our clients. But here's a very simple way. And I heard this when I was a brand new lawyer. And it's the idea of sweat on your forehead. Okay? So there's an offer, whether you're the defendant or the plaintiff, there's an offer, and you're thinking about turning it down, and sweat starts appearing on your forehead. Well, that may be a sign that this is a pretty good offer. In other words, it's getting close enough to where you say, I'm not willing to risk that. Another way of saying it is kind of the choke factor, okay? So the offer comes in, and so let's say that case that I think is worth, $250,000, and they put $245,000 on the table. Well, for my client to turn that down, they may say, you know what, I really want $250,000. It's kind of like you get choked up a little bit because now you're nervous about turning that down. Same thing for a defendant. They may say, well, I don't want to pay any more than $175,000. And, we say we won't go below $250,000. Well, they don't want to pay $250,000. They only want to pay $175,000. But they may say, wow, we could get really popped in this case for a big amount. Or if it's a consumer type litigation, there may be attorney's fees added on to that. And typically if we're trying a case, a jury case with what's called fee shifting, so these consumer FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act, FDCPA, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, RESPA, having to do with mortgages, things like that, there's fee shifting. Generally, a jury trial, we're going to be at $150,000 in attorney's fee. So that's on top of what the case itself is worth. So the defendant may say, I really don't want to pay $250,000, but they kind of choke up to turn that down. So if you get to a number where both sides are nervous about turning it down, that's when the case settles. Okay. So I hope that that's helpful to you. And I'll talk more about how do we value cases, personal injury cases, wrongful death cases. And I'll tell you this about wrongful death in Alabama. It's completely unique. No other state like Alabama with wrongful death. So we've tried cases with Alabama wrongful death and other states wrongful death. And there's different ways of valuing it. But we'll also talk about suing debt collectors, credit bureaus. How do you value those cases? So hope that that's helpful to you, and I will catch you in the next video. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.